Aloha, beautiful beings, and welcome to another episode of the Yoni Havana Podcast, where we explore consciousness, looking into how things work in the universe so we can enjoy life more and become more whole. My guest today is internationally renowned coach and energy healer, Cru von Holtzendorff-Fehling. In this episode, Cru shares how to project abundance super simply and what not to do. What's it like to be born psychic and clairvoyant, and why most kids are born this way. Why love hacking is as important as biohacking, and the pole shift that happened in 2012. She also shares in-depth information about the various retreats and trainings she offers, including why and how she works with two powerful medicines, Bufo and changa. If you find value in this conversation, please share with someone you love. So enjoy this heart-opening and abundantly loving conversation with Cru von Holtzendorff-Fehling. Aho. Cru, thank you for coming on to the show. Welcome.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me on your show.
It's a pleasure to have you here with me and with us, the audience. I saw you in person at the Modern Nirvana conference. I actually got a free ticket from Lila Quantum in some sort of I don't even know what to call it, a giveaway. And I decided to come for the day, and I wanted to talk to you, but a lot of people are excited, especially the people that came to Modern Nirvana, about what you do and what you embody and your skills. So I had to wait for this time to have a first conversation with you.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that we are making it happen now in this really nice space with time, and no one else is trying to talk to me in the meantime. So this is much better, actually.
Thank you. Thank you for making the time. There's something, I think you and Philip led or a meditation or some sort of a guided session during the Modern Nirvana. And I was wondering if you could lead me and the audience into a very short guidance to get present and centered as we dive into this conversation.
Absolutely. So everybody just get comfortable. Part of being present is also being comfortable, so that's always a good point to remember also in the future. If you ever want to get present, make sure first, am I really comfortable? And we can be comfortable in many positions, even standing or walking, but if we are very tense, or maybe we have like an awkward position or something like this, and we are not comfortable, we will never be really fully present, because this will always distract us from being present. So everybody find the most comfortable way you can be. If you're in your office, just lean back and take a big breath in and let it out, and take another one. And with the inhaling, you accept everything that is there right now. And with the exhaling, you let everything go. Just let it all go. No matter whether you still need it, or if something is hard to let go right now, just let it all go. With another inhale, accept. And with the exhale, release and let go. You don't even have to know what it is that you're letting go. Just give that impulse of letting it all go. Then repeat a few of those breaths. They can become deeper, slower. Inhaling, accept. And exhaling, release, and let go. And then let that breath go deeper and even longer. Engage your belly into your breathing. You can hold your hand against your belly just to feel whether your breath is going all the way in there. And then start to become the observer of your breath going naturally all the way deep, in and out. And then you slowly take your awareness away from your breath and into your physical body. Feel your legs and your arms. You can also touch yourself on your skin, or wherever you have skin free, maybe on your neck. Feel your face. Feel the touch of your hand in your face, on your eyes maybe. And feel this beautiful body, all these cells, all this energy that comes together to be your body. Breathe into that awareness of your physical reality. Feel into that awareness of your physical body. Our physical reality is the most presence we can accomplish in this the way how we live right now as humans. So to be present in the physical body is halfway, minimum halfway, to be present in every moment. And maybe you can feel some pain somewhere or tightness. Try to breathe into that pain, accept it with your inhaling, and then release it with your exhaling. And notice how maybe you become more aware of this center that is here in your belly, that is for all of us, the center point where we should be very present if we want to have a beautiful life. You can feel maybe how it is making you calmer when you feel in there. Maybe more able to let go. And then just stay resting in this center space and try to hold this for the rest of this podcast, or maybe even the rest of your life, while you open your eyes and become aware of your surroundings again. But stay in that connection here in the center. Hold yourself there and allow life to face you from there. And you will have a much more calmer interaction with life, which we all need. I think every one of us has a little bit too much influence and stress and stuff like this, but it gets much easier to deal with it if you're from here. It's a beautiful place to make business from, also for all the business people that may be listening to us. Like this, to do business from here is one of the most successful ways to do business. Because you're really in your position, and then the other person can really see you being in your position, and then you can have a real good conversation about whatever you need to accomplish or negotiate or do.
Thank you for that. Feeling pretty nice, calm, centered, especially as I was scrambling to be here on time. I was happy actually that you sent me a voice message. Didn't need a few more minutes.
Good. It always aligns.
When you speak about the center, is there a specific spot? Is it behind the belly button? Is it behind the pit of the gut? Second chakra, third chakra?
It's the third chakra, solar plexus. Mm-hmm. So really here the diaphragm, like where the ribs go, like they arch up like this. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's the right way to say it in English, but like really in this center here, like I would sit here naked if I would lift my dress to show it to you, but I think it's clear enough, right? Like just feel your ribs and where they go together like this. And you can even let it sink a little bit in. Don't be so much on the surface with this, like go in and let it drop towards the belly button, you will find that spot. Everybody that will practice this, like more and more, will eventually find that place where it's an immediate sense of belonging that comes from there. So third chakra is that business place, like the rest there, that's really like a wonderful, the solar plexus chakra is a wonderful foundation for good conversations, business in many ways, like even sometimes between partners, you need to figure it out. So it's kind of like a business, like everybody needs to negotiate their position. It's much better from this. And this is also our peace chakra. So that's why it's also so powerful, because when we rest in here and we manage to be, and it's also the sun, like our internal sun. So we radiate from here much more if we are present here than if we were not to be present there. So, and then with radiance, we attract more positive outcome in whatever situation it is.
How is it different than the heart? I've been, there's a lot of talk about the heart center and how magnetically powerful it is, and how do they compare
Yes.
in that way?
So actually, this is a really good thing to, I have a YouTube channel. I didn't send you the link for that, but maybe we can post it somewhere later, where I talk about the different chakras in a more lengthy. Like they're called morning prayers, and there's a whole like set of the chakras where I talk in depth about them, and then it's like people can follow the morning prayer, and then there's a blessing, but it's also a lot of information, and I work with the chakra, so everybody that's listening here can actually also go there to get more in-depth information on the chakras that we can't cover here right now. So the heart chakra, that's really our place of origin, like where we really are coming from, and where everything that we are is stored. Like think of it as the core of information that lays within our heart. So when we communicate from heart to heart, that's like a connection that is beyond words, that is beyond action. This is beyond thinking, like this is really, it's like the deepest connection that we can make, heart chakra to heart chakra, from heart chakra to heart chakra, and like from me to you. Like the heart is beyond word, it's beyond the mind, it's beyond anything that has to do with the outside. That's like it's like the most divine connection that we can make. And so it's very it's less of something that we use in order to do something. It's more like a chakra that is connecting us, like in from our greatest truth, like, or from our core value, of our existence, individual existence. So this is like I said, it's very little something that you have to do something with. You can work with the heart chakra, definitely, but it's like if it's naturally expanded in your system and it works well, it shouldn't take anything that you do, like it's just like a connector from truth to truth, like your greatest truth to my greatest truth. We meet on the basis of love, and then of course also meeting ourselves from our human existence to that truth, so that's our heart chakra's purpose, and to hold that truth safe and true, and uninfluenced and unmanipulated. So the solar plexus is actually a beautiful foundation for the heart to be very expanded and present, and to have the courage to connect to from that truth to someone else's truth, because a lot of us also are very afraid of showing ourselves the way how we really are, or opening that heart, like, so if we have a very strong presence in the solar plexus, that calm that we just initiated, then we have a beautiful foundation that carries onto the heart, and it's easier to open the heart then and let that connection happen from us to us, and then also us to others. And it's the same with every other chakra. All of these chakras build on one another's presence. Like they're aligned on top of one another. Not only because it was convenient to place them there, like there was no other space for it, like they have a purpose. They each one of them supports the other, and they're all within one another. Now that we are in a very dynamic new time, since 11 years we have crossed the threshold and we're moving into a different direction now as an existence. Before we were moving out of unity, now we're moving back into unity. Like, so we have for a very, very, very long time, if we even think of time as something that could be long or short, moved away from source. And now basically what we're like, we have crossed the threshold 11 years ago, and now we're moving back into source. So we're on a completely different plane, and our chakras have also switched, like we have come from a linear presence in the chakras to a multidimensional presence in the chakras, because coming in is not separation anymore. Now it's all about unity. Of course, now we cannot experience separation in the chakras as we used to, because it was meant to be like this. Now it's then multidimensional within one another. So the support is not so linear anymore. It's more like in its omnipresence of each chakra that it supports the other chakra because it's present in the other chakra, like, so they're all present in one another now. That's a lot for the mind sometimes to grasp, but it's also not so important for the mind to understand it. So chakra work is a beautiful work to do, and to understand the chakras, what they're there for, can help support a really healthy lifestyle. Like, I mean, we're all in this biohacking scene, like, so I always say, I think I want to create a love hacking scene, because the love hacking is just as important as the biohacking, and maybe they're not even separate from one another, like by starting to love on your body, with the biohacking tools, like you start to also, that's a lot of executing of self-love, and that self-love eventually will bring you into higher dimension, like away from the physical, only into the multidimensional existence that we are. We are not just this physical body. This physical body is our reality, our expression here on this earth, but we are all of the other things too, the chakras and the aura and the spirit and the soul and all of these things.
Can you expand on what happened 11 years ago? Was it in 2012? Is there something that you noticed
Yes.
personally? Is it something that you and other people on your network have been talking about? What's there?
So many, many different networks have talked about this event. Many philosophers, seers have foreseen that event, like, I mean, many different traditions and religions and have named that a different event, but it's all the same event, like it's basically the 180, like that everybody saw coming, and that we fulfilled then, like, and they gave this so many different names, like I don't even know where to begin, like, but really what it was, we started with switching from the Kali Yuga, which was the dark age, like, which also was already an awakening age, like, because we have had way darker times, and the preparation for this event here already happened 2000 years ago. And then we were in the Kali Yuga, which was a dark age, but it was also sometimes we need to go in full dark mode in order to break through into the light, like so. So that's what we experienced. And then the Aquarian age, which a lot of people have heard of, like or the golden age, like what people call it as well, is what we have transitioned into around that time as well. And the golden age and the Aquarian age, they are part of this new time, like this other direction, the pole switch, or I mean, people call this so many different things. The earth was awakening to be a creator herself, like before it was more like a game board, like now the earth itself has awakened to become part of the game, or some people have called it heaven on earth. We were always directed towards God to be outside of ourselves, like we have been directed to up to heaven. Heaven was something above us, like so we were always looking up. And now that we have come across this threshold, like it's now all meant to be in the other direction. Like heaven is actually coming to earth now. We are finding God inside of ourselves, like whatever you want to call it, source, God, the love, like universal, everything, nothing, like you can call it whatever you want. But it's a time now that we find this inside of us again, where we're not looking externally. Like we actually, the pole has switched basically. The heaven comes now down on earth and becomes one, actually, because there's really, the truth is that there's no difference between those two things. It's like there's no difference between our human bodies and the highest, greatest consciousness. Consciousness is also something that they call source sometimes, like it doesn't matter what you name it. Everybody gets to name it whatever it feels comfortable for them, and then they will all find the same path. In the end, we'll all end up in the same source again. Yeah.
Did you experience anything in particular in around the time when the switch has happened?
Oh, yeah. Yes. I can say that I have always been on this path. Like maybe some of you already know, like I was already born psychic or clairvoyant, like, and my mom was really like the perfect chosen mother because she was helping me to keep this alive, like, because a lot of kids are actually born like this. We think this is so special, but this is actually more not special than it is special. Like it's actually more natural for us to be that way, like because we are not five sensory beings. We are multidimensional beings that have so many senses, and we just get these things trained out, like the society is not aware, or maybe is not does not want to be aware. From a greater perspective, it was not part of the separation game that we played until 12 years ago or 11 years ago. So most children experience so little support on that level that they will forget that they had these abilities, like, so I'm not so special, like I have just had the opportunity to have a mother that helped me to understand what I experienced there is as valid as everything else that I experienced with my five senses. And that made me able to keep this alive throughout later childhood. And when most kids start to forget at the age of 7, around the age of 7, most kids have completely immersed into five sensory experience. That I didn't have to do. And so I have observed a lot of these changing times. I'm 49 now. It's a half a century life, uh, almost, and I've noticed that the leading up to this changing moment, like so many pieces had to fall into place. When you see the world in its multi-dimension, like you see all these pieces falling into place, like, so it was a beautiful thing to watch. Also, I have memory of previous lives, like I have not really this bliss of forgetfulness to not remember what was, like, so sometimes that can be bliss, it can also be something beautiful and meaning to observe what has happened, and how it led up to become a picture, like many puzzle pieces falling into place, even in very dark times, knowing this is part of the whole grand picture. Um, and then seeing all of that fulfill, that was a very crazy moment for me as well. Like from a perspective of consciousness, I understood what's happening, but then also from this led to, for me, to a breaking point, because I was living outside of my body most of the time. I was not very good at what we just did together, like resting in this physical presence. Um, I thought that was too limited and too restrictive. I didn't want to deal with the limitations of the body. And so I lived very much outside of my body and forced a lot of things from my body. And in that time, I was already diagnosed with Lyme's disease, and I struggled very hard, and it was very uh, life altering and also life threatening at that time. And with 2012, I feel like I had my breakthrough moment, also turning towards healing and surrendering into the fact that I can be free in a physical reality, which I still was a very stubborn goat about. That's not possible. In the end, it's actually very possible. It's actually the only way to be free, is to be free in every limitation. Um, so I can, from a personal experience, I noticed that I had like this first time the feeling I can heal, which I didn't have before. Before I felt like very much like I won't be able to do this. And it took me still quite some time to get out of it. But that was a turning moment. Like something opened that was not available like than it was before. I saw it actually in many people. Things shifted in the way that suddenly we were swimming upstream, and all of a sudden we were all like, things developed much faster. Things with clients developed much faster. Things that were on the rise rose much faster. We all know Dave Asprey, like he started around that time, like the biohacking scene started to come up. I'm the daughter of a naturopathic doctor. I know what it meant for my mother to be that in the 80s.
Mhm.
I remember my sister was in intensive care after an appendix breaks, like a broken appendix. I don't know what you call it in English, but when one weekend she was on a naturopathic congress and she wouldn't come visit, and I was there with my father, and the nurse asked me, uh, "Where's your mom?" And I said, "She's on a congress for naturopathic doctors." And past that moment, neither the doctors nor the nurses talked to my mother anymore.
Mm.
Like, it was that awful at that time, to be perceived like as a witch, even though, like that's the naturopathic path was the beginning of the biohacking, things, so at that time nobody was accepting that, like it was a witch hunt, and of course I was a child, like I didn't think of that as that. Like, I didn't even know that that would be a problem. I experienced that then live there, like that they would think my mom to be a witch, and they didn't talk to her about my sister anymore. Didn't talk to her at all anymore. They didn't even say good morning, good night. Um, which
Mm.
I couldn't even believe at the time. And so we see now all of this has become such a trend, and it has an upwind, like this trend. Like everybody, even doctors think of this now and incorporate these things. Like naturopathic doctors are now very well perceived people, so we see that there's a lot of things are emerging that have had so much struggle to get out of the mud, like that lotus needed to fight its way up to the surface for a very long time, and now we have so much upwind
Mm.
for this. And this is also part of this, because now, like, yoga is in everybody's mouth now. Like when I was doing yoga in the 80s, nobody knew what that was, like or Tai Chi or whatever it was, at the time. Um, Now all of these things are so normal.
Mhm.
We don't even think of them as something odd or weird or spiritual or anything. They have become a very sporty thing. So we see the development in the last 11 years has exponentially, that's a word, right?
Mhm.
Like, did I say that right?
Yes.
Um, increased to become normal.
Mhm.
Um, than to the time before. If you look in, like, if you now consciously look back, so you see the changes everywhere. Like we also see things, the internet, like is even more. Facebook came just before that. Like, and like all this information, like podcast, YouTube, all of these things, like they were developing towards that time, and then now they have become such a normal standard in the world. Like we have, of course, we see a lot of issues with these things as well, but we also see a lot of information that is available, communication that is available, like sharing, connecting. Like there's so many things that came with that that support this journey that we're on now. And we're just on the threshold of this still, like, I mean, it's not like we have already walked miles out the door,
Mhm.
like we have, like 11 years, what is that in eternity? Nothing.
Mhm.
It's a blink of an eye. Yeah. Um, so we're just beginning to see. And then, of course, we see also all the struggle that is now that we see. Like sometimes we feel despair because we feel like, is it ever going to get better? Like we see crisis. We experienced COVID. Like in all of what that um, brought to humanity. Um, but these are just effects of this momentum that we have that we're creating, like, and they feel like they're so awful, and we're really going into, like, there's war here, and then there's despair there, and 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 poverty here, and like it looks like financial crisis and all of this, but all of these things are actually signs that we're very, like, that we have already crossed the threshold, but also that we're getting closer and closer and closer to breaking through more and more and more through the surface. Like we experienced the most kindest um, uh, change on Earth from all times that we have experienced quantum leaps like we are in right now. Like we have had a quantum leap during French Revolution, and I don't need to explain anybody how awful that was. Like that. If you don't know much about it, then go read about it. It was an awful time. Like, and so all of what we're experiencing right now, we're still, as a whole, very humane in the experiences that we're experiencing. Like there's a lot of good while there's all of that bad. Like, which we also had different. Like I can even go further back. Like in so many years further back that I have seen things. It's this is there's only light right now. So if anybody here is in despair, if anybody's listening, trust me, and I've said this on the Modern Nirvana, it's never looked better than it does right now. And we are going to get through this well. And if we awaken more and more, the universe is a mirror. What we project is what we get reflected. And so when we project hope and deep trust into the process, then we get reflected good. Like it's going to be abundance that we get reflected when we fill ourselves with abundance. And consciousness creates abundance inside of us. And if we project this is what we get reflected. So the world cannot fall apart if we keep awakening and create abundance within, because what we project is what we get reflected. And as a humanity, the more we awaken, the more fuller we become, the more abundant we become as beings, the more multidimensional we are in our awareness of ourselves, and we find all this beautiful stuff in us instead of just all that what's missing. we're projecting that, and we will have a world that is reflecting that, like, so think of all of this, what's happening right now. It's just still side effects of a very, very, very long time living in separation and lack. But we are moving into great times, and it's close. I mean, we still have a little bit to go as a whole of humanity, but it's spreading like a wildfire. And this is because we have support under our wings, moving into a direction of source now.
Thank you for that explanation and shedding light on what's going on. The two words that come to mind are growing pains. And that's kind of what I've been feeling through COVID and the latest times. And also, as your husband said on my podcast, is there's more light in the darkness, all kinds of things that were there before, and perhaps even in deeper extent, or what we didn't know. Now we're just aware of it. So I think it's painful and it's hard to stomach. And I've had those moments. And I think coming to, as you're saying, inhaling and accepting that that's the situation helps a lot. And then consciously creating what we now have the ability to do, I think, as the earth has, and as us as beings of source in our individuality, together and alone. Doing that seems to be what's given us that hope that you were talking about, and creating this new reality. I'm
Yeah.
curious, as you were talking about being clairvoyant and psychic, I don't remember myself as somebody who can describe himself in those words. How would you describe being clairvoyant and psychic? What is the experience like?
The, the experience is very different depending on where you at with that, like, so as a child, you don't even, like a very young child, like you don't even experience that as something unnatural, like there's not even a way how to describe it. Like you experience the world in all its facets, like it's like nature is, maybe the experience is omnipresence, like everything is omnipresent. You understand yourself not separate from everything else, because you see, you perceive everything naturally, just like, I mean, if you see me here now, you see the pillows, like my dress and me as a person. It's very natural. You don't even think about what you're perceiving, right? Like, I mean, it's normal to you that your eyes perceive those things, and then your brain puts them into pictures, like mm, the same as when you are in clairvoyant, like then you just perceive more things, like but it's normal. You don't question it. Like there's no cognitive awareness to it. So it's a state of being very interconnected. And then you start realizing with the age of communication with other children, and maybe also with adults, like you start to understand, oh, they don't always see what I see. So you start to cognitively be aware of that there's differences in the way how people experience life, like, and then yeah, with more age, like you will learn to shut up about it, because you feel that people don't get what you're saying, and they want to tell you what you're saying is fantasy or stupid or whatever, like a dream state. There's so many words, like today we use ADHD for kids like this, like, and or all sorts of diagnoses. At the time when I was little, there was no such terms, like, so I was just a very unfocused child. One can say that, like, my experience was I was very unfocused. Um, Maybe that's also part of not knowing yet how to live with focus in such a multidimensional experience, like because when you sit in school and you see so many things, auras and energy fields and connection between people, like dynamics and stories in the aura, like you see all a person's story, like, and you love stories as a child, like I was always somebody that loved stories. So you sit there and you are fascinated by all of these things that are going on. How can you focus on that teacher that is there in front of you trying to teach you math, like, which is so linear, like, in a way. in the beginning, like it's very linear. It's like 1 and 1 is 2, like, or 7 and 7 is 14, like all of these things that is very linear in a very multidimensional world where you feel like, what does it matter? Like as a child, you don't understand, what does it matter whether 7 and 7 is 14? Maybe it's not 14, like maybe it's totally irrelevant, like, so you have a much more spiritual experience of life than a 5 sensory person, like that does not have these gates open, like, and experience is not so multidimensional. Then later, of course, I can tell you that from my perspective, I don't know how that is for others, but I didn't want that. I wanted to be like everybody else. And because I felt also very responsible, seeing all the suffering, seeing how people perceived so wrongly about themselves, like people think of themselves as so unworthy. So here, listeners, I'm placing this now. Whatever voice you have inside of you that tells you that you're not worthy or that you're not enough or that you need to be more than what you are, that is an illusion. This is false information. It is not true. We are worth it. We all have this voice. I have that too. Like we have these voices because society teaches us to have these voices. As a child, we hear so much from our parents and they mean the best. They don't mean to harm us, but this is just the way how everybody thinks it needs to be. We need to perform in order to count, like this is not true. We are worth everything, everything. We are so divine and magnificent beings. I can see the whole of everybody. And all I see is divinity, like completeness. Like there is no lack, there is no deficit. It's just that we have forgotten to access these things, like, and so just because we are already everything. We are everything and we are everything worth. And no matter if we sit there the whole life and do nothing, and maybe never learn not to shit in our pants, we are still worth everything. We are always everything at every second, every split second of our existence. We are everything and worth everything. And if we can just go back to remembering that more and tune out the voices that tell us otherwise, we will create so much abundance within. And if we have abundance within, we project abundance into the mirror, and the mirror reflects abundance. And then we live in a state of abundance, which is the most natural state to a complete and divine being, which we all are. So cut out all the voices that tell you otherwise. However you do that, like there's many ways to get there, and start to believe that you are a complete being. And then you will have a very, very, very fast approach into a beautiful and abundant life. None of us have to be anything other than abundant. And no matter in what circumstances you are, like you can create it within by remembering, tuning out the voices, tuning out the circumstances, tuning out what you're seeing, tuning out the mind that tells you it's all hard, like, because it doesn't have to be. It is what it is, but create that internal abundance and you will get out of the circumstances that you're in. It sounds very simple. Of course, I know it's not that simple, but it's actually that simple. So, but yeah, I felt very responsible to fixing everybody because I saw everybody's despair and I wanted to make everybody understand how valuable and beautiful everybody is and what their problems are, like, and how they can resolve. And this is basically what I'm doing today. But today I've learned to tune all of this out, like when I'm just me, and tune it on when I am at work, but of course, as a child, I didn't have that training. Nobody was there to be able to train me that. So that came much later in my life. I was going from like a young adult. I wanted nothing to do with any of this. I was a climber and a skier and snowboarder, and I was about to be a mountain guide in Chamonix. This was my life. You're going into extreme situations, a lot of solitude, like in the mountain. When you ski, you're by yourself. You can ski with others, but you're still by yourself. Like you're very present in the physical motion, in speed, which I loved always, like, and you don't involve so much into all the presence of need things that need to be fixed. Same with with climbing. It's you on the mountain or you on the rock. Like, there's it's your own ego that you're faced with the whole time. You're not competing with the world. Like, it's more just you with you. And the same with going up on high altitude, like into high altitude climbing. Like, it's also, that's a journey that you always take alone. Like, so this was kind of I love being with people, but then this was my retreat into not feeling so responsible. So not putting the feet on the ground, basically, and doing what I came here to do. And then I got pregnant. And then I started to do what I came here to do and to be me. And I started to develop and train. How can I live with this without feeling constantly in need to fix everything? And that took me a very long time to learn this. Like, I'm in no need to save anybody today anymore except my own self. And while I learned to do that only, I have become a very efficient fixer of whatever needs fixing. Like, so it's I think that's also a great lesson to learn in life, is to turn away from the outside world and turn towards self. Like, and then really become very close with that and very, like, become hands-on. Don't see what someone else does, see more what you do and how you respond to it and what needs healing within. And then from there you will be everything that you were always meant to be. And then the outside is just a reflection again of your inside. Like, so it's if you don't like your partner, whatever, like in at work, in your relationship, don't look at him. Look towards yourself, understand what's going on, and you can totally analyze what's going on with him too, or with her, or whatever, like with the group or the company. But then what is it saying about me? If this is a reflection of one of my projections, where is it within me? How can I fix it in me? And then you will either walk away from the situation peacefully and have it figured out within and create a different scenario outside, or maybe the outside will change. Like, it's very possible that partners change when you change your projection. Like, so that is basically what my path was after I got pregnant with my first son. And I never wanted children, and then I have now 2 boys, and I can't believe how could I have never been a mother. Like, I am such a good mother also. Like, I think maybe it's one of the things that I know how to do best. And imagine I would have just become a mountain guide and not become a mother. So thank God life comes in between and breaks plans and takes over. Yeah, that was really, really good for me to be me, was this child. He's 20 now.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing all of that on your path. And, I want to just touch on the point that, as you're saying, that we're creating our lives constantly. And I think the things that show up in our lives, as you're saying, are, whether consciously or unconsciously, are a reflection of what we are projecting. So on the topic of abundance or an abundant living, can you share a few practices or things? I know there are a lot of ways to tune more into abundance, but if somebody feels a bit stuck and kind of struggling into tuning into that frequency, besides getting the little quantum frequency, abundance frequency card, are there any other practices that you can recommend now to the audience of doing?
Yes. So there's very many different things, like that one can practice. One of them is, don't project. Like, there's a lot of, right now, there's a big trend in meditation practices that project health and wealth and all of these things that we wish for, like if we just manifest it, like with our minds, meditating on it. And if you can, and if you trust me, cut that out. Don't do that anymore. Like, or for whoever resonates with what I'm saying now, like for them, cut that out. Because if you project only the good things, you will not attract what you need in order to create the big magic, and so abundance lays often behind crisis, or lays often behind letting go of things that we're holding on to, that we believe we are entitled to, but while we're still praying for these things, or we're meditating on these things, we're actually projecting it's not there. What we're actually saying, it's not there. And if we're saying it's not there, what are we projecting? And what will we get reflected is lack. But if we accept the moment as it is, as perfect, like if we come into that practice and say whatever is perfect for the moment, then we say everything is here. The underlying message of that thought pattern, or that existence pattern, is I have everything that I need. Everything is perfect the way how it is. Like, it's a projection of everything is there. What is the reflection of that? Abundance. Everything is there. So it's we have this mindset, or we need to learn more. We need to be better. Like, if we can cut that mindset out and say we are good the way how we are, no matter if we make mistakes, and if we may be at a spot where really things are not looking great outside, or we're not, we can never cover the bills, or there's a million things, like our health is really at a very bad place, like if you constantly think about this to be your reality, you will recreate this reality. Like, but if you stop thinking of this reality as faulty, as wrong, like if you accept it as perfect, then you say everything is here. And then what you will attract is abundance, because you project it, it will be reflected, it's a path, it will not work the first time that you do it, yes, it will work the first time that you do it, but you need to keep on doing that. Catch your mind when it projects any kind of information of lack, because every time when you say something's missing, and we do this, everyone does this. Oh, I miss you so much. You're saying something is missing. And what do you get reflected? Some lack, deficit, so. But if you say, I love being with you, or whatever, and every moment that I have with you, I cherish, even though that moment is not right there, but if you connect to that moment and you feel that completeness of that moment, then you say it's there. And what do you get from a projection? It's here. Abundance, so that's something we can play with, with the mind, and with our, catching our projections, understanding what is the underlying message of what I'm saying, or oh, am I ever good enough? What are you saying? That you're not good enough? You're not good enough right now. You feel like you're not good enough. What do you get reflected from that? Lack. So if you say I'm good enough, just the way I am, no matter what I feel like right now, no matter what somebody else tells me, no matter what somebody else feels about this, I will continuously project I am good enough. And what do you get from that? Abundance. So this is something that everybody can do, and it's practice, like anything else. It's like riding a bike, like skiing, like cooking. Everything is practice. The first times you cut veggies, you might cut yourself, but if you have cut veggies for a long time, you will do it very speedy, and it will be so natural, so it's the same with thinking patterns, changing thinking patterns, projecting and reflection. That's something we can practice every single day, and we don't need a coach for that. We can do that depending on how much willingness we have, and everybody is in their place, wherever they are and how much they can get done is right. And so this is one thing. And then, of course, I think that's actually the most vital thing. and then getting out of your mind and getting into breathing techniques, like, because breath is the abundance within our physical reality. And like, if there is no breath, there is no life, like, so if we can continuously bring our breath deeper, longer, fill our lungs to their full capacity, the more abundance we will attract. Like, this is because the body will function much better. Like, and the body is also a projection. Like, so we become healthier. More healthy projection is also a reflection of abundance again. So abundance is not only in money. Like, abundance is in everything, being there in abundance. Which is what, like, the better our breath is, the calmer we become, the calmer we are, the less we are in the mind, stressing. And so that's how we create a path, a journey of abundance, creating abundance, which is our most natural state that we should all be in. And we will be, like, it's just a matter of awakening into this, understanding how it works. And it's not how much we give to others. It's not how much we calm someone else and stress our own selves out. The mirror is always only true you with you. What do you do with you is what you get reflected. You can be the best person and the most giving person to someone else. The mirror will see how you give everything to something else. It will not see how you give to yourself.
Mhm.
So make yourself first. I'm not saying become a selfish ass, like, what I'm saying is be in a healthy way selfish by seeing yourself first, understanding yourself first. From there, you will overflow eventually into abundance that will be shareable with others. You can see that in nature very, very well. Like, there's a little island in the West Indies called Dominica. It's not a very populated island, and it's very volcanic, so there is not a lot of uh, like when they farming, um, because it's not easy to farm there. So we were visiting there, and I'm telling you, the coconuts rot under the palm trees, and everything is there. Like, everything is just, it's falling right on the same spot, making that fertile ground, that ground so fertile, like, and then the own roots take on the own fruit, and power comes into the stem, and more fruit create, like, and then it falls.
Wow.
And in the beginning, we need to let that fall onto our own ground. We cannot take the coconut and throw it to the apple tree, like, because that's what we humans do a lot, like, we take what we have and give it to someone else and think that they become full. But they don't become full from my fruit. They become full from their own fruit. So if you let your own fruit fall on your own ground will become very fertile. And if you then take all that with your own roots and bring it back into your system, every year you will become more abundant in your output of fruit. And eventually, you will pile up the coconuts on underneath the coconut tree, or any other version that you are. And then there's so much to share. We all come then with full plates to the table, and we can share the feast together. This is what we're moving into in this time, like, where we all become very abundant beings, where we don't go to the table anymore because we are in need of something. We come to the table because we got so much to share, and we bring it to the table, and then we share in each other's fruits.
Mm.
So, because we are abundant in them, and we have more than we need for our cycle to stay alive in abundance.
So beautiful. Thank you. Makes a lot of sense. And I will make a couple of adjustments to how I feel the feelings and feel about myself. I think as you were talking about the worthiness and giving and a lot of conditioning that a lot of us grew up with, it's a lot of undoing and relearning and catching in the moment and reprogramming ourselves. So that's what comes to mind. Speaking of abundance, you are in Costa Rica, and I am wondering,
Yes.
how did you decide to live there, spend a lot of time there? I don't know what's the dynamic.
Yeah, so that's a funny story. Actually, we had a ranch and a center in New Mexico, Santa Fe, and it was so beautiful, and I was so happy there. And we were just about to get that off the ground and making it more available to the public when COVID hit. So then we had the last seminar ended on, I think, March 13, and then 15 was the lockdown. So everybody there quickly hustled home, and so during this period of COVID, I think the next year, I was still traveling, I didn't even accept COVID as a reality, and I might not maybe I lose some people here right now. Of course, COVID was much reality, but to me, at that point in my life, I didn't accept that to be something that would limit me, so I lived my life very much in the same way that it was. And I didn't really see the need to go anywhere else than where I was. We had a very beautiful community where we were, and I was traveling between Europe and America a lot because I have status in both places, it was very easy. And then, um, but of course the whole work part shifted a lot, and I've already worked online for so long, so not so much shifted there, but in the retreat space thing, and so there was suddenly a space open that we were just filling. And when a space is vacant in your life, something will, if you are in a good flow with your life, it will eventually, something will try to move into that vacant space, because we're not meant to be with vacant spaces. So when we have space, the magic can move in.
Mhm.
And my son, he wanted to have a vacation in Costa Rica, and because he wanted to surf all the time and here. And then we met some people that told us about this spot here. And then I didn't even want to go. I'm like, I don't want to go to Costa Rica. And we were always thinking a little bit about buying another property somewhere, putting some money into real estate, and and so the boys were really into this here, and I was like, I don't know, I don't even remember why I was so reluctant about it. And then we came here, and then getting here was so hard, and already on the way here, I was like, never will I buy anything. you know, I was so stubborn. And then, but the boys were pushing it through, and I'm telling you, I was here for 2 days, and I fell in love with this head over heels. Like, we were looking at places in these 2 weeks, and 4 weeks later, we bought this.
Wow.
And this was just a vacation home. Supposedly, at the beginning, it was supposed to be only our vacation home, and so we can come here and have the beautiful balance between the desert and the jungle and the water. Like here, we're right at the ocean, the Pacific, which we have always loved the Pacific a lot. And then somehow, naturally, this turned into, we started to create more space with a guest house, and from guest house we started to create retreat space, and then from retreat space we created more guest houses, and so now this has become a full retreat center, and we have had now almost a year of beautiful retreats here, and people love to come here, and we love to be here, and we're actually about to sell the ranch in Santa Fe.
Wow.
Really making this, I think this abundance here, the more abundant we became in our expression as the people that we are, as a family, the more we attracted this spot here. And I mean, nature here is like insane, abundant, so this is, Costa Rica is so untouched, especially here on the Pacific side, because it's same like in Dominica. It's very hard to farm here. It has 2 seasons, a dry season and a rainy season. Nothing really likes that much in farming context. So much water and then no water at all. So this is just very original here still. And when you leave nature alone, nature does what nature does. It's abundant, and you can feel that here. And It's a beautiful energy. The navel chakra of the world is here in South America, middle and South America, the top of South America. So it's also an amazing thing to sit on that pulsing energy of the world. Like navel chakra is our power chakra. Like that's the creation chakra. That's where our manifestation is. Like so there's to be here is just so empowering. Like empowering is really the best word. That's how we came here, and that's how we. I think that the energy, because being so connected to your own chakra means also being connected to your surrounding chakras, and then that turned into a very fertile relationship here. And here now, and I don't even know how could I be resistant to that for 1 second, but that's how we are, we humans. Even I, like I could have seen this coming, right? Like, but I also have learned to not be like that in my life. Part of the clairvoyancy to learn also to not always look ahead, like because you can. It's harder today because we have such a fast developing existence that things are so dynamic and so multidimensional that looking into the future is becoming harder and harder because so many ways are possible, like, and it's really almost unpredictable now, so which is amazing, which means we have all opportunities. But when that was still not the case as much, looking ahead, that doesn't help always, like it's so to be clairvoyant and to be able to see the path is good if you work with it, but it's not good when this is your presence all the time because you want to be surprised by life, like you want to live the moment, like you want to really be present and not always look ahead for everybody, no matter clairvoyant or not. And so this is something you have to learn as a clairvoyant person, is to let life come and to be also resistant sometimes to the good things, like you create maybe a lot of strength in that resistance. And so it's not to be perfect, like to be a spiritual person doesn't mean to be perfect in every way. That means to live the life with all facets, with the darkness included, like that's in all of us, like in every light there is darkness, in every darkness there is light. It's not separate from one another, like so. And we all have this in us. All the things that are seemingly imperfect are as perfect as all the seemingly perfect things, like it's, and to live life in all these aspects, that's to make mistakes and allow yourself to make them and then learn from them or experience the outcome of them or whatever, like it's all part of life. So being clairvoyant doesn't mean to be perfect in every way. It means or spiritual, like or spiritual or highly conscious, or it just means to be true to what is. So it's actually not so. Maybe we can put the bar a bit lower, like so everybody can feel like it's actually reachable. Enlightenment doesn't mean that we're floating perfect angels, like it means that we are fully aware of every moment in life and that we live in that presence and this awareness, all parts of existence. Eventually, we won't have any separation between dual polar things, like light and dark and right and wrong, and all of this will melt more and more and more into oneness the further we go back to source, But that will be 100 years from now or more.
Makes sense. Thank you for sharing the story on coming to Costa Rica. I'd love to hear about the retreats that you're hosting there in Costa Rica.
Yeah, so we do different things here. We have retreats that are reset oriented, like so there's we have medicines in those, but we also have sound and yoga, like sound healing, yoga, biohacking integrated, like then 2 different kinds of medicines, we have retreats that focus only on one medicine, which is Bufo. And so these retreats are all like basically kind of prepping you for this experience and then integrating that experience and then taking that into your life, like, and then we have um like my training happens here in Costa Rica as well. Um, some of that training is sometimes also in Europe, depending on how many people I have from Europe, like, and so I'm like balancing it. Some people have to travel sometimes and the others don't, and then the other way around. So the training is all about understanding your gift and what you brought to this world and how you can incorporate that, like become very competent in it, and then how to incorporate into your life. Because some of us are healers in the way how I do it, like with one-on-one with people, or like groups and retreats and holding my hands and making things change, like, and then there's people that are healers in a completely different sense. They write children's books. Um, and the essence of their gift is in every one of their words, like, and they touch the children in or the moms that read the stories or the dads that read the stories at nights, like, so being who you are, the gift to this world is so individually you. And I have done so much training, like, and I have seen so many people go through so much training, and I have learned now is the time where we need to learn who we are, and not just one technique and a concept, or following a system or something like this. It's like, because every one of us has so much that we bring, and to understand that, what that is, and how to become competent in it, and then how to incorporate it in your form, in your way of life. Like, there's maybe a CEO of a really big multi-billion company, like and this person also has a gift, and thank God, and maybe thank God that person also learns what that gift is, because they have so much influence. Like, imagine them to know what their gift is, and then let that one trickle down into a corporation, like where people really need more of the light, like um so healing is not always just putting hands somewhere and making something change, like, it's your gift unfolding in your way, and not dropping all of what you've been doing before, incorporating that into your life, like, and making that come true for you. And that will also again create so much abundance. Like, for me, really, everything is in the end all about abundance, because that's the most natural and most innate state that we deserve to be in. So the training is partly happening here as well. And yeah, then we have silent retreats. Then we have retreats where single, like one-on-one retreats, where people can just spend time in ever which way, very custom tailored they want to one-on-one with me, um, or with Philip. Or with us together, like, depending on what people want, like, so it's a very beautiful place to create reset in many ways. So a lot of everything that's happening here is about resetting your system into a much more natural state than the stressed state that most of us live in. Yeah.
About the training that you do for people to find more of their gifts, can you share? Usually, is it like a few months process, or you start online and then you come in person? Is it usually a week long? What's the timeline or some of the process? I'm curious
Um,
myself.
so the training is over the course of a year. It's 3 times in person for a week, um, with the group and with me. I mean, people can be online if they can't travel. It's more beautiful with a group, definitely. It's also beautiful to be here, like,
Mhm.
and to be together in this group and eat every meal together and all of that stuff, like, or I mean, not every, but I guess to have that setting. But definitely, like, you learn as much. You just don't have the group experience as much. But then people will learn in the beginning of this year, they will already learn a lot about their gift. And then the first block is all about how to make that available to them, like to make them very competent in it. And then for the rest of the year, it's basically a journey of incorporating, like practicing within the group, like sharing, making experiences, making mistakes, like, and then me in all of these lifetimes, like it's basically we're going deeper and deeper into it. And the last few months is all about incorporating it into your life externally, outside of the group, like, so it's a year-long process. I mean, it's a lifelong process, but it's a year that is, where we meet once a month, like, and then we have these 3 blocks, like in every 4 months, so, and then everything that as much as you do inside the group or not, like that is also dependent on that. Some people have a very easy way, maybe have already done a lot of stuff, like, and for them, they will incorporate it much earlier than others, like, and so, yeah, it's a very, again, here, this is also a very individual journey, but with a group together, like, so, which is really beautiful because everybody brings a different gift and you benefit from each other's gifts. So it's basically you're being the healers for one another, while you're learning to be the healer that you are. Every human existence has come here to serve all of humanity, every one of us, like even the most asleep person still, like has that gift inside, like, and not for everybody it's ready to be living that, like, and that's totally okay, like we can't be all at the same time. That doesn't make us any less worthy or any less precious, like, we're all the same precious and we are all a gift to one another, and in every state that we are, and sleep state, dream state, waken state, meditative state, oneness state. We are all always everything that we are, and we are always that gift. And whenever that is ready to unfold, this is like this is designed to help you unfold that, understand yourself better, and then take it into the world.
How big are the?
That's how it
Thank
works.
you. How big are the groups usually for this process?
15 people. Because the group is small, for now it is like that, like, and because it's a lot of individual work that I do with every one of you, and to get, like, to really get you to know what that is that your gift is, like, and so it's like with 15, it's a really manageable size, like, if it becomes more, I have 2 trainings a year, like, so this is like basically 30 people a year that I can accommodate in this, which is not much, but think of it, it's actually a lot. 30 people more that know who they really are, and how to share their gift every year, that they will eventually then train people in whatever their thing is, like, it's all designed to empower everybody to create their own kingdom, like, and receive those that want to follow them, not kingdom in the way of ruling, but like sharing their gift into whoever wants to be, and maybe eventually, and like, we will grow this and I have more people that can do what I do, and then this can become a bigger school. I think we're going into this direction that everybody wants to learn more, who am I, rather than functioning in already preset concepts that have been the reality in the past few thousand years.
I agree. I think actually, as you're saying, 30 people doing the ripple effects of them truly knowing who they are and their gift is
Yes.
a lot.
Yeah.
Where I'm thinking of.
Yeah, I mean, look at Dave, like, he was one person starting to do biohacking, and now the whole world is into biohacking, like, so Sometimes it just takes one.
Absolutely. So you
Yeah.
were saying, was it was it a 1 week per month and then getting in person 3 times a year? I'm so curious myself that I'd love to hear about the
Yeah,
dynamics.
yeah. So it's like it's 3 times a year, 1 week where we're together
Mhm.
in Costa Rica, and this year the coming one is starting. It has 2 blocks in Costa Rica, January and May, and then in October one in Europe. So uh, this is then the new thing starts in May, right after that one. May is Costa Rica in October, or like actually in September, and then um again in so far I said it to Europe, but it may change. Like probably most likely it will be in Europe in January again. So this is for this year. Um, and then we meet once a month for like a whole evening. Like I mean, depending on which time zone you're in, online to discuss with me, but everybody gets to meet as much as they want, like, so it's there will be little groups building, like it's always like this, few people connect with one another, they see each other more, then sometimes it's bigger groups, but it's once a month for 12 months is a meeting that we have all together, and then 3 times a year, this 1 week setting here, which is an all day thing then, like every day.
I'd love to hear about the other medicines than Bufo that you are working with in Costa Rica.
So we work with changa as well. That's DMT. We use that before you go silent in one of the reset. This is a body, mind, and soul reset retreat. It's actually the longest we have. It's 7 days long, and you have silent time in that one, right? And like you get here, you're accustomed to here. We prepare you for the medicine, and then you will have the medicine, and you will go silent for 2 days after that. Like, so you will be very much in contact. Changa opens your connection to your highest self. We actually produce DMT. Almost every living thing produces, I think every living thing produces DMT naturally. And I think my theory why that is because this is what interconnects us into that network of life, like what we produce in order to stay connected.
Mhm.
And when we take DMT in a plant medicine, then we open up that we basically widen that connection, or like intensify the connection to our highest self, which is our highest truth, which is what connects us with everything, like, and so we can have a lot of intimacy with our own truth. And while we're in silence, like we can sit with this. It also is a beautiful heart opener towards self. So we understand ourselves better, like, and so it's a really beautiful kickstarter into a silent time and learning a lot while you're not in a constant reaction pattern to the world, like that's why the silence, like the silence helps to prevent you from being in reactive pattern the whole time, so, and then after that we will do a lot of integration of what you learned, and balancing, not always pleasant, like it can be very unpleasant sometimes to meet yourself
Mhm.
and make peace with that, like, so that's why there's so many days afterwards still that you go home with feeling very much reset in a good way.
Mhm.
So these are the two medicines we do. We don't do ayahuasca here. Ayahuasca is not a medicine that speaks to us for us, but it's still a great medicine, like for people that feel that is on their path when it's facilitated right. Um, Whoever is here that listens and is interested in medicines and doing medicines or psilocybin or whatever medicine, the best outcome you will have from any medicine is to prepare well for it and to integrate well and really look for the right timing. And if you need somebody that helps you find that right timing, like, better do that. If you don't know it yourself, like, get help, because medicine is a powerful thing, and it's not for every moment, and it's something that if it's done right, it can be such a gift in your life. But it can also be so much damage in your life if you're not preparing it right and not integrating it right. So I mean, every damage can be repaired. There's nothing is ever broken for real. So also take that with you. If however much it seems broken, it's always fixable. Nothing is really ever broken. It's an illusion that something is broken. So, but sometimes we experience damage, and that can be a beautiful gift as well, and then we can learn from that and move from there. But we have come to a time now where we don't have to grow with so much pain anymore. That's also part of the 2012 change that we had, that we don't need to go across the cross anymore in order to grow, meaning we don't have to be crucified with pain and sorrow and all of these things in order to grow as beings. We can have a much more gentle approach into growing with all of these modalities that exist today. We don't need to do this thing anymore.
Thank you. In terms of changa, is it can you share on that experience? Is it a few minutes? What's the experience of changa?
Yeah. It's very short, just like Bufo as well. And DMT is not it's very much very fast processed in the body. So it will be re-given over the course of 40 minutes, usually once or twice, or 3 times, depending on the person. I get one serving of changa, and it lasts me 40 minutes. I don't need another serving. Depending on where you are, you will get, because 40 minutes is a good time, to go back in and have this experience. But some people need, like me, only 1 serving for that, and other people need 3 servings for that, so it's a very short thing. And the same with Bufo. The way how we facilitate it is a full dose, and that is wiping you out for between 4 and 20 minutes. Now, so it's but then of course there's all this after coming out of it and awakening to the world again. It's almost like being reborn. And of course, when you are being reborn, you experience the world so the whole thing is longer than 4 to 20 minutes. Usually every person has about between a 20-minute and 40-minute experience, and then you go back to your place, and then the next person is doing their 20 to 40 minutes. So it's, of course, in Bufo, it does not feel like short, like 4 minutes. In Bufo, it feels like eternity, because time does not exist when you become oneness. That's the purpose of Bufo, is to experience oneness. And when you are in the experience of oneness, time is something that it only exists in duality, so in oneness that doesn't exist. So you are basically eternity in that moment of oneness. You are everything and nothing, because that's what existence is. It's ones and zeros. It's everything and nothing, and then that constantly is like it's birth, death, birth, death, birth, death. So when you're in that, then nothing matters. You experience that everything is everything, one. And when you come back from that's the profound thing. Most people don't remember what they experience in Bufo, during being in eternity. Also, some people need a few journeys before they get to that point, consciously to that point, that they actually experience that. Some people's egos fight a lot against that dissolving into everything, because everything is everything. It's also darkness. Like everybody also wants to light, always wants to be light only. But how can that be? Like how oneness is oneness. Like there's everything is in there. Like there's no difference between light and dark anymore in oneness. But to get through the darkness is sometimes the ego struggles. Like and to integrate that and make that part of your light. Like is something people's egos fight sometimes. So there's sometimes a little bit of struggle until you go into eternity. And then when you come back, you often don't remember all of that. You don't remember the release of the trauma that was in your cells and things like this. But eventually in your life, you will see how you react differently, how your cells are not programming you to react a certain way anymore, like how you respond to life very differently. So it's really a medicine that takes effect in your life after the medicine rather than during the medicine. Like I think similar with changa, like DMT. DMT is also in ayahuasca, but there's another plant in the ayahuasca brew that helps to prolong the effect of the DMT in the journey. So you have a very long, like, an ayahuasca journey can go up to 9 hours. So it's a very long experience. I haven't done ayahuasca, so I can't say. I can only see what I read, like from other people's journeys, or when I read into ayahuasca medicine, I can read the energy field of it, like the information that lays within the medicine. It's quite a character, that medicine. Yeah, so this is the experience of changa, also like what I said before.
Thank you for sharing. I will share that actually I did ayahuasca exactly 5 years ago. I went to one retreat in Peru. There were 3 ceremonies, and I came to expand my horizons. That was I had a calling over almost 3 years before, and the timing happened to be almost 3 years after, in terms of what I felt like safe and the right spot for me to fully surrender, and I did. And actually, at the end of the 3rd ceremony, I was cruising kind of through all of them, having quite an experience, but fully surrendering physically, emotionally, spiritually. And the end of the 3rd one, that's when I was handed a really deep darkness. And as I'm on a path to, I said on the podcast, to enlightenment, and, people can take it however they want, but being more light and holding on to less, I think, restriction, and being able to hold more light and share more light. It definitely, my experience of consciousness has gone into both directions, and with more darkness that I accepted and did not deflect, which I did for a long time. I'm from Israel, Jewish, and it's in my lineage and my past lives that the Holocaust was part of it. Once I was able to look into those experiences in the eye and let them be, and also accept them, that's when my highs became higher. But definitely the lows are lower, and I've had a lot of low lows on different types of medicines. And Bufo, I heard about Bufo a while ago, but when I talked to your husband, Philip, on the podcast, and he told me about the Bufo retreats, that's when I was like, okay, I'm ready to go. And once I was like, I'm ready to go in November or December of this year, 2023. And I keep getting the dates that don't work for me for all the reasons, whether it's Thanksgiving and then a wedding and then a birthday. It's like, all right, like I'm hearing, like I'm ready to go at the same time. The divine timing will happen when it happens. And you're also accepting
Exactly.
as excited as I am to be in communion with all that is, and have that luminous experience and release trauma and all these things that speak to my soul. And at the same time, also I feel my ego saying like, "Hey, are you gonna get rid of me?" There's a fear there. All of that has come to acceptance and excitement, and also just being okay with not forcing what the idea that I have of like how quickly I want it to happen. It's the same kind of with ayahuasca. Like I have my targets, and when everything aligns, I let it flow, as easily as it can. So I have my intentions of being right there in Costa Rica and experiencing.
I think that with Bufo, everybody that's listening should know that might be a one time in a lifetime thing. Like it's not something that you want to It's not a habit, like it's also not something that you want to make a habit. Like you don't want it, like most people, we facilitate on 2 consecutive days. So after the first journey, everybody comes in the morning and says, "Oh, I don't think I can go today again." Like so, because it's so overwhelming. So it's like once in a lifetime for most people, maybe twice in a lifetime experience. And one should have that exactly at the right time, like, and your high self always knows. And we actually also, an important thing that you just said with your ego, the ego is a beautiful thing, because if there were no ego, there would not be a Yoni and a me. Like we would not experience each other as individuals, like, and we would not enjoy this talk with each other. Like the listeners would not maybe be inspired by the words that I say, like, so uh, an ego is a beautiful thing in this existence because it makes us able to enjoy food, each other, sex, like all of these things, like we wouldn't have, or love making or whatever you want to call it, like all of these amazing things we would not be able to experience without an ego. What the problem is that our egos became the controllers of our life. They are not just a part. It's not like a limb, like that does. I mean, my hand is not eating the food, like my mouth, my teeth are chewing the food, like, and my colon is digesting it. It's not happening in my hand, like, so um, the hand is there for other things, maybe to get the food into my. So it's all part of a greater system, and the ego is part of a greater system, but it has become the captain of the ship, like, and often the ego is so manipulated and influenced by all the experiences that we made, and that the ego is not allowing anything other than what it constantly reacts towards experience, like, so then we limit ourselves extremely much, like, so the ego will not die. It will die for a minute, like while you're in the oneness, but it will return to you, but it won't be in the same place it was before, like, it's like, and it will find it in a natural place, and eh, the controlling of life will become less, like, and you're allowing more for the flow to happen and the magic to come in. That doesn't mean that you don't have to do the work, like, I'm in this business for long enough now, and I have seen a lot throughout all existence, like, and I can tell you there's not a single path that does not include that you have to do the work, like, and that, and in the end, love is the answer to everything. Always, 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 like, and so oneness is the omnipresence of love. It's the total acceptance of everything and therefore melting into one, so this is a path that takes work, like, and no medicine will ever not make you have to do the work, like, but it will be so much easier to do the work, like, and there's multi ways to get to there, and not for everybody medicine is the way to get there. Like, I have experienced oneness many times before I did this medicine. I did this medicine for other reasons, not because I needed to experience oneness. So there's many, many ways. And I've never done any medicines before. And like, so there's many ways to get to this point, and it's not always medicine, but medicine can help you to put the ego in the right place to make it easier to get to oneness. Also outside of the medicine, because really in the end, it's beautiful when we remember this oneness as an experience, as as much of an experience as we experience duality, because then we have balance between those two things, and we know, oh, while we're experiencing duality and maybe all the hardship that comes with that, we also remember, but we are also all one, and it's all really irrelevant, like, so, and then we can move through hardship faster, like, we don't have to hang ourselves up on or break all the way and until we can break no more and have to then put ourselves back together, like, so yeah, it's a beautiful medicine. You will find the right time, like, it won't go anywhere. And when it's the right time, it will be the perfect moment.
Thank you. Yeah, I am full faith that that's the case. And when it comes to ego, I often call it the egoic identity, which I enjoy a lot. And having the story, as you talked about stories, I think a lot of what we enjoy is stories, and letting the
Yeah.
stories unfold and be in the magic of the unknown, the beauty of the unknown of the story. Because if you're talking about clairvoyancy and constantly knowing what's the next thing in the story, perhaps not as exciting to live in the story. I think as you're touching on the ego, sometimes getting lost in the character can have its detriments of forgetting completely and being asleep completely in that character. And that's, I think, when sometimes different identities within the duality start looking at one another as enemies or as competitors, which competitions can be fun as long as they're for the sake of a game. But that's my 2 cents there on identities and ego.
Yeah, but that's very beautiful said, like in the sake of the game.
Uh,
That I love
And
that.
we are. I see myself in a game. There's a lot of times when I look outside, and perhaps I think as we were you led us through the exercise in the beginning of going inwards, and I open my eyes and really feel like I'm in a game, like a character within a game. It happens often. It happens more and more often, and it's actually very satisfying to feel that feeling in my life, kind of forgetting the worries or anxieties or whatever can come, and feel like I'm in a game. I choose to be in this game constantly. Every second, I make a choice to be in this game. There's one more thing I want to ask you about that your husband touched on the podcast, that you have one of your gifts is to see through people's root cause of their dis-ease or discomforts. I wonder if you can share for the audience, what does it look like? How do you work with individuals in case they're interested in working with you in that capacity?
Well, like everything that we experience has originated at some point, like, and sometimes we do a lot of surface work, like trying to make the problem go away, like we use Clarisil for pimples, like, or acne. I don't know what you call
Mhm.
it in English, I think. But it will make it go away on the skin. But if you don't change what's inside, like the hormonal maybe problem, or the bad food that you're eating, and your adrenal glands not working properly, your there's different reasons, like why you suddenly have to detox through the skin. The skin is also a detox organ. Um, so you can use this to go here away, but it won't. The problem in internally is not resolved. Like, so. This is the same with any other. Like, if we have a problem in a relationship, or we have a problem in life or in work or whatever, or we can't find our potential, there's always a reason for that. And to go deep into that reason, that's what I love the most. Like, and then to understand why, like something is the way how it is, and then where it is originated, and then resolve it from there, like, so it can trickle and ripple into your momentary life, like, so it's a lot of correcting developmental lines of humans, like every one of us. In the perfect state, we would have a perfect developmental line all the way to the age of 18, and then live a life based on that line, like a. But of course, that doesn't happen for most anybody. We have a very upside down experience in this, like, and so this can be corrected. When we correct it and replace the experience that you made with the corrected
Mm.
version, basically we're changing the information. We're taking one program out and putting another program in. Then you have a now that can relate to a different information, like, so I do things like this, for instance, like that, because a lot of our troubles in life often resonate from that, from this life. Like, even though we have also past life experiences and then causal body that constantly triggers the emotional body, and then we have emotion. But most of us have a lot of, also because of the cell memory of this body in this life, is very loud, like, so we have a lot of resonance to what happened in this life, so correcting that already helps so much. And then we can also correct all other things, like down the road, or balancing out, gracing gracing moments that have been very influential on how we make decisions today is something that I do a lot. So that these root causes disappear, and we have no effects of them in our daily life anymore, and also not just putting it from here to somewhere else, like maybe we get rid of the acne here, but then the problem isn't solved, and then we create kidney failure or whatever, or so eventually we'll have to face the music, and it's best to go down where the music originated. And um so this is what I do. I like fixing things in the roots.
How long does it usually take for somebody to work with you for you to help them find the root and then to change the story?
Usually people stay with me for one very intensive year. Like that's most of my practices, clients that stay with me for a year, and they have a lot of time with me in that year. Um, that varies much on the process time. Sometimes they have a lot of need for me, so they see me a lot. Then they have less need for me because they're not in a time where a lot is happening right now, so they at least see me a little less. So because of we agreeing to be committed in a year with each other, I can disperse time from when they don't need it so much into time where they really need it much. So it's a very dynamic process. Like we will be able to take rounds around topics, because people sometimes just can't heal right away in something. Sometimes I don't see change until 6 months into working with someone, because we will do so many little things on the side, like that you don't see the change so immediately, like then after a while you will start to see the red thread, see where the and most people that have been with me for a year after this, they say, well, I am changed 180, but I don't know how it
Mhm.
happened. Like, because I think change is not one big boom. Change is something that has so many little steps, and sometimes we have to burn the whole house down in order to rise from the aft, like the phoenix, or the water bird, from the
Mm.
emotions, the sea of the emotions. Um, so we have to sometimes burn it down. So sometimes we might just be busy for a few months burning down everything, so it's a very individual process for everybody. There's no concept. People are all individual beings. I will address everybody in whatever way they need to change. Like the tools are always my tools, and it's a lot of work that I will do. And you don't, and you will just receive. Um, there's not so much homework. There's some homework, but I've noticed that people don't do so well with homework. So it's like it's better to let it happen. So it's a lot of service from me to the person. Um, and it's not, and then it's not always in the head, like it's a lot of things that you often don't understand or don't make sense. But suddenly at the end of this year, you will have changed 180 degrees, and you didn't notice where it happened, like because that's the change that will last. It's your system changed in its own way without a big boom bang. It got used to this change, apply it to your life, like naturally without force. And then you will be able to continue that after you don't spend time with me anymore, which is what I like. I want to see things through. I don't like it when it's just a little bit of change and then you don't see me and then you struggle again and then you come back and then we change again a little bit. And so this is you can book single sessions with me, but I really like because I love giving the impulses. Sometimes one session can change so much. I have had conversations with people on conferences and I say something to them so
Mm.
randomly, and then they come back to me a year later and said, "You have changed my life."
Mhm.
It was just that one sentence, that fell into the right place on the right moment and that changed their whole life. So single impulses can be wonderful. But also I like this one-on-one intimacy and being in it with it together. And yeah, so that will eventually be less and less, because hopefully more and more people will be doing the work the way how I do, and I will find more and more people that work like this, and so I will be more training people to do that, and then we can have more people enjoy this one-on-one journey. That is very limited right now, like because I'm only one person. But then there's so many other wonderful people out there that I think I'm still a little unique with this no concept at all thing. But I have really good colleagues that do a great job very similarly, so there's more than just me, but we can still be very much more people for the people out there that need that help.
When you're saying no concept, you mean no one methodology? What do you mean by that?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have
Mhm.
one mental. That's a hard one for the German brain. It wants to go into the German version of this pronunciation. Yeah, there's not a concept like we're doing steps, like 1 to 10, like, and after 5 happens XY and after 10 happens KL, like no, it's you. You give me the directions, everything. I don't even have a plan from one session to the next, like we will always do whatever this moment presents. We will always do whatever your highest self is directing. Like I will be in communication with that at all times. Like we will go through life presents itself. It will be change within life and not change within a seminar structure. Like so that's why it will last.
I see. Responding
It's
to the
your
present moment with tools that you seem to acquired over the years.
Yes, and trusting that fully at all times, like, I mean, which is my job, like it's not your person, your the client's job. It is wonderful when the client can do this, but who can do this? Like, I mean, it's very often that they come with very little trust, because they've tried so many things, or like, so this is my job to hold that space of knowing that we can get there, and no matter how lost we can get in so many different directions, like I will never be lost, like I will always know that we're right there where we need to be. And I think this is maybe what makes me unique. I'm not working, or not unique. I'm sure there's a lot of people like me, but I don't know so many. Um, but I'm not result oriented working. Like we can have 6 months no results, and I will never lose faith in that we're still on the right path when I see that we're on the right path, So it's like I don't need to see the result. I don't need to create a result for you to trust me more, like, because I trust the path that we're taking. I know that we can get there, and we'll get there. And every time when you doubt it, or you feel despair or whatever, like I will just carry you on through that moment until you find faith in the results that then eventually will show up for you, like yeah.
It's
So
beautiful. Cool. Thank you so much. You have so much to offer, and I'm sure everybody who's listening super excited to work with you on one-on-one and group capacity retreats. Where can they find all the information to connect with you?
people can connect with me through my website. That's the and through Instagram, like that's the easiest. Like I'm not very present on Telegram. I'm not very office oriented. Like so how everybody has their strengths and their weaknesses. One of my weaknesses is to be very good at office stuff, like, so if I have too many channels, people reach out to me, I'm just not staying on top of it. I also work too much, and I'm traveling too much, and I'm not too much. It's to my liking, but too much to add on more. So the best is really through the website. Like it's easiest to book through there. Like whatever is available is on the website, unless it is the one-on-one. That is something that I will have to talk to you about and see if this is the right time for you to make a commitment like this, and if I'm the right person for you. Maybe I am not always the answer. Maybe other things have to come before that comes, like, or maybe somebody else is the better fit, like, because I have a very certain skill set, and if that's not what you need, then it's better to find that person that has that skill set that you really need, and so this is also part of healing, is to be with the right person to heal with, whatever you need to heal with. So yeah, everything is best through the website. There's contact buttons, and I will get those emails, and then also Instagram. I read all the messages from there.
Fantastic. And your website is cru-essence.com, right?
That's
Fantastic.
right. And it's Cru Essence in one word, CRU Essence, ESSENCE, on Instagram.
Fantastic. And I'll link to your YouTube.
I don't have a very active Instagram thing. Like I said, like I'm not so in all of these things present, but I read everything that people sent me there. So it's like, and I post sometimes.
Fantastic. And I will link to your YouTube channel as well, which we spoke about.
Yes, that is called, I think, Strawberry Love. Strawberry, because strawberry is a representation of abundance, and to go into that would maybe take now too much time, but I just love the strawberry for it representing this new time in which we move into, the time of abundance, and every one of us being the abundant beings that we naturally are. So the channel is called, I think, Strawberry Love. I haven't been active on there for a while, but there is quite a few morning prayers to choose from, and there's also that set of the chakras for the people that want to know more about that and have an experience with that there.
Fantastic. I'm excited to check it out, and I'm excited to, when the divine timing has come, to be there with you in Costa Rica to experience at least one of your retreats and everything else. Yeah, thank you so much.
Will you be in Denver? Like, what is the name of that conference now? And there's one in Las Vegas. Will you be on any of the biohacking that are in November?
I have no plans on going to a biohacking event at the moment. I actually have been.
So this,
Go ahead.
One of them is not just biohacking. It's also consciousness and beautiful. It's just Derek Lynn is the initiator of that. I forgot the name now. I should know that, and it's in there somewhere, but I can't get it out right now.
Oh,
but maybe I'll see.
Yeah, I will look into that. I didn't know about those conferences. I do know about the biohacking conference, biohacking congress. I've been practicing biohacking for a few years now. Well connected with a few guys, mostly, that started with Dave Asprey, the first class of the biohacking movement. So actually, one of the guys has been on my podcast. It's called Thaddeus Owen from Primal Hacker. So all kinds of cold exposure, red light, and now a lot of them are moving into more spiritual practices of live hacking, as you were calling it earlier.
Yes.
So there's a lot of cool stuff there, and I just saying they're not separate. They're merging more and more. I think that the biohacking community has really tuned into a lot of the Lila Quantum. I see that it's biohacking and live hacking to a large extent. I've said it before when Philip was here. I have memberships to all the family members and the pets and in homes and different devices on the Quantum Upgrade, and I have the blocks and a travel block and frequency cards, and I create my own different tools for all kinds of friends, family, people that I come across. So yeah, many thanks and much gratitude to you and what you're doing and your time today. It's been amazing. I've been in awe the whole time we've been talking for almost 2 hours, and thank you so much. And thank everybody for listening. I'm sure you are enamored with Cru and the work she's doing, encouraging you to check out YouTube, Instagram, her website, and go on your own path of expansion and more love and more abundance. Thank you, Cru.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Yoni, for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you all. Well, lovely beings, I hope you enjoyed and were inspired by this conversation as much as I was. You can find the full show notes and all episodes on my website at yonihavana.com/podcast. If you are a man and you are called to do transformational work to become a better man, to find and grow the divinity within you, and you are longing a community of masculine men who share a passion for growth, please check out Men of Integrity by going to moi.community. Lastly, if you are enjoying the Yoni Havana podcast, I'd be so grateful if you take a moment to leave us a rating and a review on your podcast app of choice. The Yoni Havana podcast is a brand new show, and your support would help reach new people by rating higher on the algorithms. Also, your feedback would help me deliver the best experience to you as the show keeps evolving. Much love and a big aho. See you on the next one.